Hey guys, it's me, 1239 here, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a birthday Q&A. Yay! I'm filming this way before my birthday, but I'm hoping to post this on my birthday, which is November 4th. I'm turning 24, which is kind of wild to say that, but here we are, I guess. You guys will be watching this when I'm 24, hopefully. I asked you guys some questions years ago, literally, because I have been trying to film a Q&A video for the longest time. I'm not even joking. It's been like 2 or 3 years at this point. And I never really got a lot of questions when I would ask you guys for questions. But now I've compiled all of the questions that have gone over the years, and I decided that I would answer them in this video. I don't usually wear makeup, but I decided to try, this is not sponsored by the way. We wish, but it's not. I decided to try on the Stranger Things liquid lipstick. Is that what it's called? I don't wear makeup, so I actually don't really know. But it's from MAC. I actually really like it. This is the first time I'm trying it. And yeah, so that's that on that. The second thing I'm wearing, I don't know if you guys can see because I literally have not worn eyeshadow since I was like 12. I'm wearing the one from this palette. Okay, yeah. It's this one. The pink one. It's supposed to be around my eyes right now. I don't know if you guys can see it. Probably not, but anyway. So I wanted to put on some makeup for this video because it's a fun video. Hopefully we'll see. Okay, let's get started with the questions. What's one thing you've learned over your YouTube career that you wish you could go back and tell yourself when you started making videos? Now, I wrote down a list, so I'm actually just gonna read off the list because there are a lot of things that I wish that I would have known back then. I started YouTube 7+ years ago, and there's been a lot of growth since then, hopefully. But there's a lot that I've reflected on throughout these years that I wish I could have told myself back then. I know the question asked for one thing, but I'm gonna read out the list that I have. So the first thing is that I wish I would have known or encouraged myself more to tell my family, specifically my mom, about my channel. If you guys don't know, I didn't tell my mom about my YouTube channel until 3 years after I started it. I've always taken my mom's opinion very to heart. I wish I would have known back then that she would have been completely supportive of that. The other thing was I also felt awkward about it. I didn't tell my dad or my sister immediately after I started my channel because I didn't want them to search up my videos and watch me, I was just starting out, and I think I really needed that time to just learn what I was doing and to practice my speaking skills, and it was mostly for myself in the beginning, and that goes for anyone that's really starting out on YouTube. When you are starting out your channel, you'll mostly just be doing it for yourself. When you're starting out, you don't have that many subscribers. Most people are able to just make their own mistakes and practice and do their own thing before they receive any sort of recognition, unless you're one of the lucky ones that receives recognition immediately once you start your channel. I wish I would have been more confident in that area to tell my family. It really isn't a big deal at the end of the day, and they've all been really supportive about it. So yeah. The second thing that I wish I would have told myself back then was that I could apply for monetization way before I ended up doing so. So I applied for monetization in February of 2018, and it was actually because one of my friends encouraged me to. Amanda, if you're watching this, hi. She's one of the friends I met through YouTube, through doing YouTube, and through talking about Girl Meets World and Anne and stuff like that, and her brother Brian as well, hi. We went to lunch once, and she was telling me you should probably just apply for monetization and see what happens. And at the time I was I don't really know, because the thing is I was doing reaction videos and I didn't know how to really work the reaction system, on YouTube, because now I can monetize my reaction videos because I edit them differently, but also because now I know that reaction videos are actually fair use. I mean, it depends because it's a case-by-case situation, but most of the time reaction videos are under fair use if you edit them a specific way. It's not just a reproduction of the content that is copyrighted, stuff like that, But back then I thought because all my videos for Girl Meets World that I was reacting to were getting copyrighted, that meant that I could not apply for monetization. And the monetization rules were so much more lenient back then than they are now, which is so mind-blowing. But by the time that I applied for monetization, which I said was February 2018, I had to wait 7 or 8 months, I think. I had to wait till the end of September to actually get accepted into the program. And that was because during that time, there was a huge backlog of applications, and YouTube was really taking their time to accept applications. And I think this was also during the time that they changed the rule for eligibility. If I had applied a year before, I would have gotten monetized and I would have made a lot more money than I had by the time that I did get monetized, because like I had just started doing reaction videos and just like content for Anne that I really wish like I wouldn't have missed out on monetarily, even though obviously I didn't do them just to be monetized, because like I said, I didn't even know I could get monetized. But I also do regret not receiving monetary compensation for those videos. That's one of the major things that I wish I would have known back then. Tangent over. The third thing that I wish I would have known back then, back when I first started my channel, is that motivation for making videos doesn't have to interfere with school. Now, what I mean by that is that I should have really prioritized my education over making videos. And at the time that I started my channel, no, actually a year after I started my channel, things were like really, it felt really complicated and I felt like I had to choose one or the other. But now I'm like, by the time you guys are watching this, I'm going to be graduating from university in a couple days. And I was able to manage both YouTube and school at the same time. And so I wish I would have known that back then, that I didn't have to really choose. I could do both things, but just prioritize school over YouTube. The fourth and last thing that I wish I would have known back then, back when I first started my channel, is that things do get better. Because when I first started my channel, I did it because I felt very lonely and I didn't really have anyone to talk to, but through doing YouTube, I was able to find a huge community of people that I could be friends with and that I could just talk to about my favorite shows, and just people that made me really happy and that have made me really happy and that I'm so grateful that I'm still friends with till this day. And I wish I would have known that back then. This is like more of a like positive thing, that things do really get better and that I could actually do more than I ever thought was possible through YouTube. You know? I know that sounds cheesy, but anyway, thank you for your question, Faith. Let's move on to the next question. If you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be? That is such an interesting question. I have too many songs that I would listen to for the rest of my life. I mean, okay, I have one already. Okay, like, that was not that hard. Okay, I just had to think back to, like, what song, like I don't listen to the song very often, but if I had to listen to one that would like literally keep me sane, it would be Stay Gold by Stevie Wonder. Stay Gold is the song that they use in The Outsiders. If I had to just play one song for the rest of my life, I think I would be more than happy to just play that one. I would probably be crying all the time, but I would want it to be something that is so close to my heart. Do you have any other show movie similar to Annewithani or generally with its vibes to suggest? That is such a great question. Melkita Ula Moon suggested Little House on the Prairie. There's so many shows that I have not yet watched because I want to make videos on them. And I know that this question was asked a year ago, and so I still haven't watched these shows or movies. I know that the like typical ones that people suggest are Pride and Prejudice, Emma, Little Women, Victorian novels turned into movies. By the way, I've only seen Little Women. I have not seen Little House on the Prairie or the other ones that I just mentioned. Sanditon, Dickinson, I'm blanking out right now. I think those are the main ones. I guess Road to Avonlea too. I know it's related to Anne because it has characters from Anne appear in Road to Avonlea, and it's also made by the same director and writer that wrote for Anne of Green Gables, the 80s version. But if you're looking for something similar to the 80s version of Anne, you should definitely check out Road to Avonlea. It's not something I've seen yet, but I have the box set right behind me and I'll probably make videos about it. There's also other adaptations of Annewithani. I definitely recommend you check those out. There's the PBS version, the 80s version, as I already said. There's the 1934 version, the 1940 version, the 1972 version, and I've done reactions to those on my channel. You guys should definitely check them out. Sorry, I'm plugging right now. And I haven't finished the whole series of like reacting to other versions of Anne. I'll make a playlist and leave it here so you guys can check out those reactions if you're interested and if you want to watch them as well on your own. What is your favorite Anne and Gilbert moment? It's so interesting because I've always said it was the slate scene, and I've kind of reflected on that. I was like, why is the slate scene such an iconic moment? And it is an iconic moment, obviously. So this is a question I have. Do you guys think that in the future, the slate scene will be deemed problematic? I don't know why, but I feel like in the future it might be. I think I have seen comments when the show first came out in 2017 of people being upset with the slate scene because it's obviously like violent. But I don't know, what do you guys think? The other scene that I like in annewithani, there's so many, especially from season 1, but the other one that I will forever say is my favorite is probably the spelling bee scene. The spelling bee scene is so good. There's just so much subtlety and just so much stuff going on that you have to like really pay attention to. If you could change one thing in the annewithani seasons we have until so far, still hoping we get to see more seasons, what would it be, or would you leave everything as it is? Oh my god. Okay. I'm gonna say like 2 things. The first one is I wish that Anne and Gilbert wouldn't have kissed by the end of season 3. Because I still want the slow burn, and I only would have made this change had we gotten to season 4. The other thing that I wish could have been different in season 3, we could have had like a Rachel send-off. You know? Also Jerry as well. Jerry going to school. Okay, yeah, that's the one. Jerry going to school, and since the show got cancelled, a Rachel send-off at the end of season 3, because that's something we didn't get. If you could pick to play any character in annewithani, who would that be and why? I think at this point I would have loved to have played Matthew. I think he's such a sweetheart and he's one of the best characters in the show. And also he doesn't really have that much dialogue, because I don't think I can memorize a lot of dialogue and say a lot of dialogue like Anne does. I don't think I could do that. So I think I would love to have played Matthew because he doesn't really have that much to say and he's such a bean and everything. I love him. What is your favorite fanfiction about Anne and Gilbert? This is such a question. Because I have not read Anne and Gilbert fanfiction in such a long time, in literal years. There's so many that I used to read back in the day. Some that come to mind are A Winter's Ball, which is, to me, one of the best fanfictions out there for Anne. I think you can find it on Wattpad. You can probably still find it there. I completely forgot Hannah's handle, so I'll leave it here so you guys can find it. There's so many that I read back in 2017 when Anne first came out, and they were so good. Like, they were so, like, pure and everything. There's one I remember. It's really hard to remember now because it's been 5 years. There was one, I think, where Anne falls into a lake. The other one was Capture the Flag. That one is on Archive of Our Own. If you guys can find that fanfiction, Capture the Flag, I don't think that's actually what it's called. It's like the summer of 18 something. But we, like, in the Anne with a GC group chat, and back in the day, like in 2018, we used to call that fanfic Capture the Flag. It's a great fanfiction. 100% you guys should check it out if you love Anne and Gilbert. Your 5 favorite annewithani characters. Definitely Anne, Gilbert, Jerry, Matthew. There's way too many. I don't know who I'm gonna give the last spot to. I gotta go with Bash. He's amazing. I gotta go with Bash. He's one of my favorite characters. What's your favorite thing about Canada? I thought about this question so much and I literally don't have an answer. I'm sorry. I would say like the typical Canadian thing to say is Tim Hortons. If I had to name a specific thing about Canada, like not a specific brand or like person, Canadian person, I would go with Michael J. Fox. He's one of my favorite actors out there. He's Canadian, God bless. And so I would say Michael J. Fox is the best thing about Canada. I'm sorry, but I've just been thinking a lot about him recently and I love him so much. But besides that, Tim Hortons and the Bieber balls, you know? Justin Bieber's Tim Biebs. They're really good. You should try them if you ever get the chance to. What's your favorite thing about Portwell and Rini? Oh my god. Okay, Portwell, like, my favorite thing about them, I feel like season 3 really ruined Portwell in hindsight. Season 2 Portwell, where they were like very shy. Not shy, I don't know. But they were like just starting to like explore their feelings for each other, and they were like, they didn't know if the other person liked them back and stuff. I love that part about the relationship, and I just love the moment where EJ was asking Gina like, how are you feeling? Because I feel like that's so him, like that becomes his character, and unfortunately because of the play and everything in season 3, they kind of made it seem like, I guess he was more prioritized with the play than he was about Gina, and that is just so wrong. And so I love that about their relationship, was just how caring he was. R.I.P. Portwell. I'm sorry. What's my favorite thing about Rini, which is Ricky and Nini? I love that in spite of the fact that they broke up, they were very comforting towards each other in the treehouse scene. I love that they were friends first before they got into a relationship. Does that make sense? The fact that they comforted each other instead of like Nini storming off or Ricky storming off or whatever. I think that was really sweet. If you could have dinner with 5 people, dead or alive, famous or not, who would you pick? Now, I was thinking about this. I was like, do I pick characters? Can I pick characters? Because if I would, then I would have my list just be of characters. So, but I mean, if I had to pick real life people and characters, I guess, River Phoenix, Michael J. Fox, Anne Frank, Anne Shirley, and Ponyboy. So those are the 5 people that I would probably pick to go to dinner with, you know? That would be a very interesting conversation, I feel. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Since I've finished university, I've been thinking about this question a lot because I literally have nothing to do now except make videos and stuff. And I haven't really thought of like what I'll be doing in 10 years. I don't really see myself doing anything in even 5 years, you know? Like, I don't know what's gonna come. But I hope that by the time that I reach 34 years of age, that I'll have some sort of a career. I hope I'll be doing something that I'm really happy with, whether that's writing or doing YouTube. That's where I hope I'll be in 10 years, is just doing something that I love. And being surrounded by my family. I got some questions in Spanish a couple years back, and so I'm gonna try to answer them in Spanish, but if I like can't express myself in Spanish, I'm just gonna try to stick to English. It depends on how I really feel. ¿Te tienes más ecuatoriana que canadiense? ¿Cómo manejas tu identidad nacional? That is such an interesting question. And there's another question that I also got. ¿Cómo te sientes al ser latina canadiense? ¿Has experimentado racismo, prejuicios? Wow, eso es una pregunta bastante grande. I guess I'll just answer this in English because it's just so much easier for me to do that right now. I don't consider myself to be Latina. I am Latin American descent. My parents were born in Ecuador, but they immigrated to Canada in their adult life. So I'm a first generation Canadian. My grandparents and great grandparents were all born in Ecuador, and I don't really know how far that line goes to being, you know, from Ecuador. I don't call myself Latina because I am, first of all, Canadian, because I was born in Canada. While my roots are Ecuadorian, the majority of my life and my experiences are shaped through my Canadianness, if that makes sense. So I've been learning about what it means to be Canadian with Ecuadorian parents, and that means that I have certain privileges that people that were born and raised in Latin America do not have. And so to call myself Latina would be to be inauthentic to my personal experience as a Canadian. And so that's why I don't do that. El español es mi segundo lenguaje, pero al mismo tiempo mis experiencias son de Canadá. Sí crecí un poco en Ecuador, unos meses durante los años, pero tampoco puedo decir que entiendo todas las experiencias y el medio ambiente político o política en Ecuador. No puedo decir que soy ecuatoriana como otras personas que nacieron y crecieron en Ecuador pueden decir. Okay, in terms of prejudice, because like I said, I'm first and foremost Canadian, I have not really experienced prejudice myself, but I know that, like, recently, my mom did experience some prejudice at a restaurant. I know it happened recently, but it took me a couple weeks to, like, feel okay again because it was disturbing and I felt like I could have done something to stop it, and I didn't, and so I felt a lot of guilt after it happened. But I wasn't directly affected by that, it was my mom, but it did suck at the end of the day, and it was something I never thought we would have to go through, you know? ¿Qué piensas de Barcelona? Saludos desde aquí. Muchas gracias. Me gustaría conocer Barcelona. Nunca he ido. Honestly, I have very limited knowledge of Spain, but I would love to visit someday. And I only really know about Barcelona from like watching the Cheetah Girls movie, the second one. It seems really beautiful. I would love to go. Have you ever started talking in a language and then switched to another without even realizing it? Yes. When I was in grade 3, I went to live in Ecuador for 6 months, which was a great time. It was really fun. I learned a lot. I went to school there as well. It was a very formative part of my childhood. But after I came back, I remember I was with 2 girls and they were like a year younger than me. They were new students and I don't remember where they'd come from, but they'd come from a Spanish speaking country. And so I used to like, you know, talk to them in Spanish and stuff. And there was another kid in my class who was new as well. He was in the same grade as me. He was from Spain. And I remember him like saying something to me in English and I responded to him in Spanish, and I was like, what the heck just happened? Because I had been talking in Spanish in Ecuador for so long. The only person that I could talk to in English was my sister, but other than that, when I was in school or when I was with my mom, I was just speaking in Spanish. So that was kind of weird, you know? That was like a really like, oh wait, what am I doing right now? And even though he would have understood because he was Spanish, but it was still like a really... Also, that same kid, when we were in grade 7, asked me like, so when did you come to Canada? And I was like, I'm Canadian. I was born in Canada. And so he thought since we were in grade 3 that I was Ecuadorian, that I was born and raised in Ecuador and came because of that 6 months that I lived in Ecuador. So I think that's why he assumed that I was Ecuadorian. ¿Alguien te ha mirado raro por hablar en español en un sitio público? I don't think I've ever really noticed that. Probably. I always talk in Spanish with my mom. Even in public, we always talk in Spanish to each other. I don't think I've ever had that experience. Maybe I have, but I just don't remember it anymore. ¿Cuáles son las razones por las que te gusta annewithani? Me gusta la esperanza que tiene Anne. Me gusta la alegría que ella expresa. She's a very optimistic person, and I think I'm very drawn to optimistic people. And I think I just learned that recently, actually, but those are my favorite types of people in shows and stuff. ¿Te gustaría volver a Ecuador? Sí, claro que sí. O sea, ahorita estamos planeando a regresar a visitar a Ecuador el próximo año, el 2023. La última vez que fui al Ecuador fue en el 2019, pero por la pandemia no pudimos regresar. ¿De qué parte de Ecuador eres? Mi familia, mis padres, mi mamá y mi papá son quiteños, son nacidos en la capital de Ecuador, que es Quito. Me encanta la ciudad de Quito. He visitado Ambato, Cuenca, Azogues, I think. We also visited there. We might not have because I literally don't remember. ¿Te resultó muy difícil aprender el idioma? En parte sí, en parte no. Mi mamá me enseñó el español. Cuando he estudiado en Canadá yo aprendí el inglés, pero cuando estudié en Ecuador, que fueron 2 veces, cuando estaba yo en el jardín, cuando fui al grado 3, aprendí un poco más del español, no sabía leer ni escribir. Y eso fue muy difícil. Eso me tomó más tiempo para aprender y tomé una clase de español en grado 9 para el night school, para tener un extra crédito, y ahí aprendí más la gramática. El escribir fue más difícil que aprender a leer español, porque todavía no sé escribir muy bien, para serte franca. I've been taking Spanish for 2 years and I still don't understand anything. This was me with French. French is Canada's second language, and even though French and Spanish are a tiny bit similar, there's like some things I think that are similar, I was still not able to learn French at all, actually. I was really bad in French. French was my lowest mark in high school, besides calculus in grade 12, but I only had to take French once in grade 9, and I took French for 8 years when I was in elementary school, and I still don't know anything about French. I think it's a lot harder when you're just taking a class and you're learning it in school. If you have someone that you can practice with at home, like, you know, your parents and stuff, like how I grew up learning Spanish, then I think that's a lot easier. Like my friend growing up, she had grandparents who were French because they were French Canadian, so she was able to learn French through like actually speaking it with them. I know that this is like 3 years late, but good luck. I hope you passed your courses. How are you? I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. What is your real name? My real name is Michelle. Why do you name yourself Mimi1239? Mimi is like a nickname that my dad gave me when I was 10 because he used to call me Mija, and then he just started calling me Mimi from calling me Mija, and it also kind of goes with my name Michelle. And yeah, the rest is just a mystery. What gave you the idea to make annewithani videos? Picture this, 2017, Girl Meets World had just ended in January. I had no idea what I wanted to do for my channel moving forward, and so I had like a bunch of like shows that I wanted to do that I was like trying out. So one was 13 Reasons Why. I never released those videos. I filmed them in Ecuador. Pretty Little Liars, Andy Mac, Raven's Home, a couple Disney shows. I know I'm blanking out on a few. There were like 7 in total, I think. But I ended up doing annewithani when I came back from Ecuador in May of 2017, and I found out about the show, and I was like, oh my god, there's a show about Anne, and I had loved the 80s version so much, so I was like, I gotta do this. This is my new thing. And it was perfect because it was Canadian, and it was the same type of like coming of age as like Girl Meets World was, even though it's kind of different from it. It's a story about a young girl. It's coming of age. It's Canadian. It was perfect for me. And it was about something that I had already had a passion about, which was Anne. And it was also like a revisited story, and so there was already like something that had come before it. There was already a history to it, so I was like, there's so much that we can talk about when it comes to Anne, so that's why I did that. And then season 2 got renewed, and I was like, I gotta continue doing this. If you'll summarize your mood today, what emoji will it be? Keep safe. I'm sure there's like a tired emoji right now because I've been filming for a really long time at this point. I love your channel. Thank you so much. What shows or movies got you through quarantine? This is not a show or a movie, but it is also a show and a movie. It's It, Stephen King's It, basically. I read the entire book during quarantine. It took me 4 months to read it because it was really heavy and I didn't want to like be carrying it the whole time. It was basically a workout to read that book, but I also didn't want to like rush through it. I wanted to take everything in. I also watched the movies and the miniseries. Those got me through quarantine. Schitt's Creek. Canadian, love that. Such a good show. I'm trying to think of more things, but I can't. I think those are the main things that got me through quarantine. Even though they were, like Schitt's Creek, I discovered it in like September, October of 2020, but it kind of got me through stuff I was going through. La Casa de Papel, amazing show. And yeah, I can't remember what else I was watching at the time. I really can't. Favorite Matthew and Anne moment? I guess the ending. The end of season 3 where like Matthew says, I'll miss you so much to Anne when she's going to Queens and stuff. I think that was the best. R.H. Thompson's acting is incredible. Like you will never find an actor like him. Okay, so I didn't realize that this video had already reached its 30-minute limit of filming. So I have to repeat some of these questions. Okay. How is your Gilmore Girls TV show watching going? So I've only watched a couple of episodes in season 1. I can't remember how many. I think maybe like 15 or something like that. And I watched them with my sister last year, beginning of last year. I would love to do a reaction series on Gilmore Girls, but I'm not going to say that I'm going to do that because there's like over 150 episodes, I believe, in that show. That would take years to do. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll just say right now, I love the show. I love the first couple of episodes. It's my type of show. It's my vibe. I'm excited to eventually continue watching it. I know I'll watch it eventually, even if I'm like 40 or something. Do you read books? If so, what is your favorite book? Okay, so I have a couple favorite books. The Outsiders, The Freak the Mighty, It, Anne of Green Gables. Those are my favorite. I've read a lot of books over the years, especially when I was like 13, because I didn't really have anyone to hang out with during recess sometimes. So I did have friends, but sometimes I didn't hang out with them. I just spend my time reading. So I mean, Hunger Games. Yeah, Hunger Games. Love Hunger Games. What is your biggest pet peeve? I guess rude people. People that are unnecessarily rude. People that are very rude and judgmental for no reason. I really don't like that. I dealt with that sometimes in high school and that's just awful. Do you ever think Annewithani came out at the wrong time? Because I feel like people are more appreciative of the show now than when it first aired. Could that be audiences weren't used to modern period shows like they are now, so they wrote it off as bad writing? Such an interesting question. I feel like, because I was in the fandom when the show first came out. Not exactly when the show first came out, because the show came out in March in Canada. It came out in May on Netflix, and I was starting to be a part of the fandom in like July-ish, August-ish, when I made my first Anne video. I definitely feel like there were a lot of people that were judgmental of the fact that they were remaking Anne, and you know, the PBS version had just came out, so that was probably why they thought that this show wasn't really good. I don't know. Like, I mean, the show is also, it has a very different tone from the books and from the 80s version, and people always like to say that the 80s version is the original when it obviously isn't. I think now people are a lot more appreciative of the show, and I think it also had to do with the fact that with any piece of media, people are always going to be standoffish and judgmental, skeptical about it because they don't know if it's actually going to be good. A good example of this is Cobra Kai. Not to say that people were, I honestly don't know how people reacted when the news came out about Cobra Kai. I definitely know how I reacted and I was really excited, but at the same time I also didn't know if it was going to be good. It's not like I was like completely writing off that I would never watch it, but I also didn't really know what it was going to be about, so I was kind of confused about it. But you know, there's the Cobra Kais of reboots, reimaginings, and revivals, and then there's like kind of like the Fuller House and Girl Meets World, I guess, of them. Or Raven's Home, I guess, too. I mean, I'm sorry. If you like Raven's Home, if you like Girl Meets World, if you like Full House, or Fuller House. That's great. Like Girl Meets World was my show back in the day, but I feel like people nowadays are like not as very positively receptive of Girl Meets World than when it first came out. But I think Anne has grown such a positive fan base. Like there's a lot of people that just love the show. You know, I see so many tweets all the time of people saying, oh my god, there's the show called Anne. People just discovering Anne and right away loving it. I know there's some people that were hesitant to watch the first season because they didn't want to have their like image of Anne destroyed or whatever. But then they eventually gave the show a chance and they loved it and stuff. But I think with any reimagined media, people are going to be skeptical about it. That's just something that people do because they hold the original close to their hearts. But yeah, so I hope that answered your question. Thank you guys so much for asking questions. I did have one last question that I forgot to read, and it is favorite Ecuadorian food. My favorite Ecuadorian food is locro de papa, which is like a soup with cheese, aguacate, avocado, and papa, which is potato. It's the best thing ever, and every time I go to Ecuador I always want to eat that, and I eat that. It's amazing. I first discovered it in the airport in Quito. I think it was still in Quito, but my mom was eating locro de papa one time when we were in the airport when we were already like going back to Canada, and she was like, do you want to try some? And I was like, okay, and I ate some and I was like, this is the best thing ever. My favorite place to eat locro de papa is this restaurant called Padre Almeida. It's in downtown. If you ever go there, check it out. It's really good. They also have the empanada de viento, which is like a huge empanada. It's amazing. Anyway, that is all. Now I'm hungry and I'm so looking forward to going back to Ecuador, hopefully next year. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a very, very long Q&A. Thank you so much for all the birthday wishes in advance. And I love you guys so, so much. Thank you guys for always watching. Mwah. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you guys want. Thank you so much to Raster, I'm Danny Fanta, Gregory Krinkovic, Mary Chris Petito, and Zari Abdar for becoming channel members. From the bottom of my heart, it really means a lot to me. I've recently added 2 new perks to my membership so that you guys get to decide what I post next and bi-monthly live streams that are exclusive to my channel members. So check the join button at the bottom of this video right next to my name or on my channel page if you're curious or interested in joining my channel membership. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! Mwah.